I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. I'm doing Criminology's Read What You Own challenge, but this one is a bit different because I've just read Hey Wait by Jason, which is a graphic novel, and I wanted to do an analysis more than my usual review. And what I wanted to do is to try and make sense, if nothing else, just for my own sake, of the trauma presented in Hey Wait. So, if you want a recommendation, read it. It's dark, but it's amazing. But other than that, I am going to assume that you either have read this one or don't care if you get spoilers. So, shortly told, this book is about John and Bear, who are childhood friends. It's summer. It's starting to be close to the beginning of summer vacation. And Jason and Bear are playing a lot outside. And they and John wants to have a contest. He wants them to have a special club just for the most bravest of people. And if you want to be in the club, then you need to do a contest. You need to prove yourself worthy. So he challenges his friend and anyone who wants to be in the club to dangle off a branch across a sort of kind of hill, and to dangle off a branch. And his friend does it, and he dies. So this is a book about a young boy who dies because he was challenged to do something. And there is a jump in time when we meet John, who happens to be Jason, the author's real name, later in life when he is struggling with life. So he has a job he isn't fulfilled with. He drinks a lot. He has fathered a child, but isn't sort of together with the mother. And one day he meets a childhood friend, Ingrid, who was friends with both him and his dead friend. And this causes him to go into a drunken stupor where he wakes up next to a zombie. And then he states, so this isn't exactly the life I expected. I could have understood if it was a punishment, if I was a bad person, but I wasn't. And the zombie just looks at him. And then he breathes, gets a new chance to go back in time, play with his friend. And then the last page of this graphic novel is him in the funeral clothes, so the clothes that he was wearing during the funeral, going on a bus and seeing a lot more of these zombie figures on the bus. So, and that's the entire book. So, the first time we see one of the zombies, and this is what I'm trying to sort of talk about in regard to the symbolism of the zombies as a form of trauma perspective. because then you can ask the question, are the zombies meant to be guilt? Is the zombie meant to be sort of what are the zombies trying to symbolize? And the first time we see the zombies are actually when they are being bullied by someone who's a bit older than them. So he and his childhood friend is getting bullied by these 3 zombies. And this, to me, points to how we can interpret the zombies. So rather than, okay, it's guilt or anything like that, it's probably meant to be more geared towards trauma, something that gives him trauma in a sense. And losing your friend, especially losing your friend because you kind of pushed him into doing something that was dangerous, would give most children trauma. That's just how we are hardwired. And it's very clear that he sort of has this guilt in him, and that there is something here that he hasn't processed and sort of come to terms with. And that's probably also why he grows up, life stagnates, and then he meets this childhood friend, Ingrid, who is the one who sort of triggers him drinking and triggers this old zombie to come back to him, because she is the one who sort of reminds him of the trauma that he is just trying to ignore, mainly. Because that's usually when trauma creates the most damage, when we try to just ignore it. And that can be interesting in regard to this last page. So he is thinking back on this one, thinking back on his friends, and then why is he on the bus with all of these zombies? And one way of then understanding it is that he is in his funeral attires. He is also the same size as all of the zombies. So what this could then be pointing to is how him sort of in the situation that he was regarding his friend ended up in a situation where everyone his own age, everyone he was close to at this time, probably became something that traumatized him, that he was afraid to let people in because of what happened to his best friend at the time. And it isn't very strange to then understand how someone who views sort of everyone else around him as someone who can potentially be traumatic ends up being sort of shut down and therefore stagnate in life. And I don't mean stagnate in life in the sense that he works at a factory, that's a bad job. But the way he is very clearly not in charge of his own life. He is very passive in his life. Things are just happening to him. And that is sort of, I didn't think the life would end up this way. So that's how I sort of tried to understand it, tried to figure out, well, what can this zombie symbolism mean? And then there is this one. So this scene is happening so here he is challenging his friend. His friend says no. And they are clearly apart in the story. Then he sees the zombies, and the next page, we see the friend tell John that I am going to do it today. And there we also get sort of the, hey, wait, when his friend is jumping and he dies by that jump. And I've been so staggering to figure out, but what this then could be, if this is a form of, is he sort of worried that he is now pushing his friend away, and that is sort of traumatizing? Or is this sort of a premonition that he is understanding that, oh, something bad is going to happen, and that is also why he's saying, hey, wait? Or is sort of this part of the book, so the book starts with this summer where his friend has died, that is just actually the backstory, that the main narrative is him being an adult, trying to figuring out of this life that he just lives because things is happening. And then, of course, when we at the end end up with him playing with his friend, it's actually because we're going back into the start of it. I don't know, but I enjoyed thinking about it. I enjoyed trying to understand what this could be. And this is, of course, just my interpretation. One of the things that made this book so wonderful is because I think there are different ways of analyzing the symbolism of the zombie. But this is, I think, is one of the reasons why I think that this works as a graphic novel and would sort of be lessen in any other kind of media, because the symbolism with the zombies is a form of meta communication. It's telling us something that isn't in the written word and the text. And that's when you sort of have this as a multi-medium and not just, here are some pretty pictures, but the pretty pictures doesn't really tell you something more than what the text already tells you. Have you read it? And what do you think that the zombies represent, especially the zombies on the bike? I need to know, what do you think about the zombie on the bike? I'm going to figure it out, but I need your help. So that was Hey, Wait by Jason. A wonderful book. And now I'm going to do my next book with my little salsa jar. There. There's one who really wanted to join, but can only read one book at a time. And this time I'm going to read 52. So give me a moment. 52. James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. I have read some by James Baldwin before, Giovanni's Room. So this is a book that I've sort of have wanted to read for a long time and finally have a reason to stop prolonging it. Thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.